guys, it's Heidi here. Today I want to talk to you about why investing in real estate is the best thing you can do with your excess money, especially here in Trinidad and Tobago right now. Okay, so for those of you who are still blessed enough to have an income happening in these times, I hope you've been saving. I mean, bars, restaurants, etc. have been closed for the better part of 2 years now. So, all that excess, what are you doing with, the money that hopefully you've put aside? You really want to hedge against inflation by putting that into an asset. An asset is something that has the opportunity at least to appreciate in value over time. And that basically is going to hedge against inflation, because what inflation is the decreasing purchasing power of your money over time. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. Now, the last figures I saw for inflation in Trinidad were saying 2.2%. Now, that's not extremely low, but even if we look at costs that we see, I believe it's a bit higher. The last figures that I looked at for the US said that their inflation currently is at 5.3%. Now, given that most of our products are imported, I think this would probably be a much more realistic figure. I even think it might be on the low end, but that's just my gut feeling, right? In terms of the statistics, for this example, I'd say let's use an estimate of 5.3%, right? Which is the US inflation rate. Is your bank or your credit union giving you at least 5.3% return on the money that you have there, so that at least you're not losing purchasing power? If they're not, basically what's happening is that you are getting, I would say, poorer with every year that passes, right? By leaving your money in a bank or credit union. So what other asset options do you have? Okay, so to start with, most people in Trinidad, their biggest investment ever is going to be a car. But let's look at that. Is a car actually an asset? In my opinion, no. So a car is actually a liability. The thing is, in Trinidad, of course, I don't blame anyone for wanting to buy a car, because other modes of transportation, we don't have a great public transportation system. So you need to buy a car. I'm not going to tell you no. What I am saying though is, should you be taking all of your savings and putting it into a luxury car, buying a brand new car? I mean, look at your financial situation and make those judgments. But my advice is basically, don't put everything into something like a car, because it's actually a liability and not an asset. It's going to depreciate over time. It's not going to increase in value. So what other options do you have that are actually assets, where you can put your savings and hopefully they will actually increase over time, or at least maintain the wealth that you have now? So let's look at the various assets that are out there and see what works best. Well, there are things like precious metals. There are things like cryptocurrencies. Those are fantastic options, and if you want any more information on those two, by all means reach out to me. But then there's also real estate, and the reason that I think that real estate is the best of the lot, especially in these current market conditions, is because it's an asset that you can actually utilize while it continues to gain in value. So if you own a piece of land, you can actually plant crops on that piece of land, or do any other things. You could, maybe rent out to someone else who wants to plant crops, or you can use it as a car park, or, there's so many different options of what you can do with it, but you can utilize that, yet the value of it still goes up. And well, even more so for a house, if you live in your asset and it's your house, you're not paying rent, you're not paying to live anywhere else. So you're utilizing that, and it's continuing to grow. And in the long term, in the big picture, real estate has always increased in value over time. So although we are in very different times, there's a lot of uncertainty out there, I still believe that real estate is the best way to hedge against inflation for the majority of us. I just want to add to that even if right now you can't afford what you think is your dream home, but you can afford something, I would encourage you to get into the market. The thing is that if inflation continues the way that it's going, and you just leave your money in a savings account waiting for that, until you can afford that dream home, chances are that dream home is going to get further and further out of your reach because your money is not growing in value, but inflation is. So the prices of properties may end up being much higher because they are keeping up with inflation and your cash and your savings is not. Okay, so my encouragement is just get in, even if it's in a small way, to the property market so that the value of that property will increase just as inflation and everything else is increasing. So even if you have to sell that when you can afford your dream home, you're in a better position. At least you've gotten your feet into the property market. Okay, I hope this has been helpful, guys. I'll see you soon. Bye.